Hello and welcome to Roseplay Presents episode 68. As always, I'm your host, Aurian MoonRose, and today we'll be continuing the DWAAN Podcast episode 4. Now here on Roseplay Presents, anything can happen, from interviews with content creators, to developers, to E3 events, to podcasts. Basically, it's anything. It was originally anything outside Roseplay, Fire Moon Roseplay, Roseplay Versus, Roseplay Classic, and anything else that I am missing. It was supposed to be non-gaming related. However, the show is constantly evolving, and as it has continued to evolve, I didn't stick true to putting out a podcast once per month. Whoops. Things have gotten very interesting. My recording equipment has changed. How I do things has changed. It's basically come down to the fact where I have needed to remodel how the shows work. There used to be 3 special episodes in Roseplay and Fire Moon Roseplay, and then every episode was a special episode for Roseplay Presents. Now, I think all the special episodes, unless I change my mind again, is going to be done here. Once per season. But right now we are working on Roseplay Presents for DWAAN Podcast, and we're working on Adam's Review Corner. When those 2 are done, reviews will be coming back, special movie reviews, the works. I do promise you guys I'm not skipping out on the special episodes. It's just people have really been enjoying the Let's Plays more than anything. And it seems like they want to see that a little bit more than these, but I do want to be different from other people. So, Roseplay Presents is going to be the special series now. Like I had said before, there's like 17 episodes of the DWAAN Podcast. I did not create the DWAAN Podcast. It was done by my good friend, Amateurgamer, and we had a few people come into the show. And we would talk about serious topics. DWAAN stood for dealing with anxiety and negativity, I believe. We might eventually start this back up, depending on how you guys feel, if he's still wanting to do it. It's a wait-and-see process. However, when we hit episode 70, we'll be doing another Adam's Review Corner and continuing that. I don't know what format I'm going to do that show in either, but I'm sure I will get to it when the time comes. So, in this episode of DWAAN, it's only me and Amateur, as we were the only 2 available, and I will go ahead and stop my talking, and let's get started with a little bit over an hour of the DWAAN Podcasts. See you guys next time.
Hi everyone, this is Amateurgamer, and I'll be returning to DWAAN Podcast. DWAAN stands for Dealing with Anxiety and Negativity, and as the topic suggests, we are talking about some serious issues. So basically, I just want to make sure that, everybody's clear that we're not professionals, we're just normal people chatting about these serious issues, trying to, share our views, our viewpoints, and and mostly just talk about what we've been through and our thoughts about, after having gone this far, our thoughts on life and how we should face certain challenges. And joining me today is Aurian. Unfortunately, he's the only member with us, so say hi, Aurian.
Hey, everybody.
So, unfortunately, with the timing, tonight it's only me and Aurian, but that's fine. Aurian is a pretty cool guy, and I'll try my best to make this enjoyable somewhat while we are discussing some serious topics. And and just a quick update about my own life. I just had my first final. So I go to university. I just had my first final. Naturally, I get stressed. And the thing is, while I go to school, I do think back about some of the things in the past, which includes being kind of a failure because I feel I haven't accomplished anything in life. And I'm sure for a lot of people, at a certain point of their lives, they have experiences where they feel like they're a failure. They haven't accomplished anything. They haven't reached the expectations maybe their own family has. Like for me, I'm from an Asian background, so there's really high expectations, and the fact that I'm not doing too well at school kind of makes me like feel bad about myself. And in addition to that, I'm not young anymore, and the fact that I have yet to accomplish anything, it puts a lot of pressure on me, and just makes me feel like, what have I been doing wrong so far? And it's really frustrating because when things don't go according to plan, I mean, when I started university, I sort of planned out what's gonna happen. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to school for 4 years, graduate, get a job, and then you know get a solid job, work for a few years, and then maybe start a family. And so far, that plan has went right out the window as things went wrong one after another, and and the development actually caused me to be depressed because I felt like nothing was going my way. No matter how hard I tried, there were factors outside my life trying to work against me, and it's really frustrating. And I got really depressed, but luckily I have gotten better. And Aurian, I'm not sure if you had like in your family, was there any expectations for you, or were you just one of those where your parents are happy with whatever you choose?
Well, that's an interesting question with an interesting answer as usual. Well, first I'd like to say myself, since you said it about how you feel like a failure most of the time, lately ish because of what have I been doing with my life. See, I felt that way most of my life. Not so much high school, middle school. Like I said, I kind of enjoyed it, even though I was kind of the outcast. But when I got into the real world, the college didn't seem to go right for me. Um, the few jobs that I did take, like every time I had a job, I pretty much felt like I was a failure. Like I wasn't like, this is what I've accomplished. This is what I'm gonna do in my life. Just this. So I mean, I do agree with you. I think everybody has that time when they feel like it. I think now personally, I'm in a good spot. At least when it comes to that, I don't feel like a failure most days. And then also how you said that you're not young anymore and whatnot. Well, trust me, you're still way younger than me. Like well, okay, not massively, but a good little chunk at least. So I mean, and you're only about a quarter of the way through your life. So I mean, pretending that we all get to live to be 100, you've still got at least 3 more quarters. And not just that, but it's also been said plenty of times that a lot of famous scientists and whatnot, they didn't become much in their life till later on too. Albert Einstein, although he was a genius, it wasn't till later on in life that he actually started, being well widely renowned and known. So I think you've got plenty of time in that. Now, as for mine, no. I mean, I'm pretty sure my mother and my father expected stuff from me. I mean, like, don't steal, don't do drugs, whatnot. I think with mine, it was more they just wanted to make sure that I grew up a good seed and didn't mess around or do anything too bad. But at the same time, I know that most of the time my mother and father were just proud that I am who I am. Now, I can't so much talk much about my father right now just because I don't get to hear from him much anymore. My mother, she's always telling me how proud she is of me and where I've gone in life, even though, like I said, even though I feel comfortable with how I am, there's still that fact of, sometimes I do still feel like a failure. And that still does hit me hard when it does. But for the most part, my parents, I think, were more or less just, as long as he's doing right and whatnot, that's him doing what he's supposed to. And so we're not too worried about, if he succeeds too much, as long as he succeeds more in the mental aspect of life. So I guess, yeah, they cared more about my mental aspect than my physical.
Okay, yep. See, like like part of it might seem like it was my parents, but now that I reached this age, I mean 25, there's no use hiding it. Like it's it's one of those things that I shouldn't be ashamed of. And like by 25, I mean we normally expect someone 25 to live on their own, supporting themselves and all of that. I mean I'm still living with my parents because the living expenses here in Greater Vancouver is just ridiculous. And and the thing is, like, my parents brought me over to Canada from a very young age, and they worked hard to, get us to where we are, where we're sort of lower middle class, so we don't have to worry about like financially we're not set, but we're not exactly scraping by. We're sort of doing like all right, and and the thing is, after all of those about 2 decades. Yeah, now that I think about it, I came when I was 5, so it's been 2 decades. So my parents have been, working hard for 2 decades to make everything that's available to me now. And right now, with nothing gone, I feel like I'm making their lives harder because, like, currently I have a part-time job. I go to school. I have a lot of debt. So far, I'm not really providing anything to the family. Even if they don't say anything, I do feel like I'm not exactly doing my part. I mean, I I know in society, the male, like, I'm the only child, but even if I had a sibling, if I was the older one, or even if I was the son, I do feel I have responsibilities that to carry, and at the very least, at least make my parents' lives easier. And so far, that hasn't worked out, and like Aurian said that his mother is proud of him. I mean, I'm sure my parents are proud of me too, but I want to do more. Like, most parents are proud of their children, but I feel I'm failing the duty of trying to, do my part where my parents have raised me to, this age. I should be at least giving something back to lighten the burden for them because, I mean, life hasn't been easy on them, especially the sacrifices they have made for me, and I feel like I'm still being a dead weight to them because I have yet to make anything out of my life, and they are supportive, but like mentally, I feel like I haven't been doing them justice for what they have sacrificed for me.
All right. So, see, now there's the thing within it. I think personally, we all are always striving for more in life. Even when, I mean, not everybody. Obviously, there's going to be some few occasions where people are happy where they're at, don't want to move on, or are just exactly where they need to be. But I think for the most part, every human being, we're always in that thing to strive for something more, just a little bit more. Maybe it's not even much. Maybe we're happy with our entire life, but God, if we could just have one more pen. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but I'm just saying, we're always striving to have that one thing more, just in general. And so I can completely understand where you're coming from with wanting to do more with your life and wanting it to go further. But see, there within the problem lies. Because, and I'm not going to say that it's continuously was always easy and things have gotten harder. I know there was the Great Depression. The Great Depression in the States was disastrous. Like, a lot of lives were lost and whatnot. But the thing is that over the decades, life has not gotten easier. It continuously seems to find ways to make itself harder now. And I think amateurs struck strong on that one suit of, you know, yeah, a man feels like he has to be a breadwinner. But that's the thing, is at least in today's society, at least over here in the States, from what it sounds like over there where he is too, And I don't know where else in the world, if any. I know there's some people that are so dirt poor, they live in a half-built house. They're lucky if they eat one day a week. But I mean, at least over here in the States, things have declined too. I mean, there used to be a time where a person could survive on a one-person income. And when Amateur said, "Oh, I live with my parents," and most people are expected not to, that I don't really think that's the case anymore. I think a lot more people, and I think even the studies have proven it, that we are more living with our parents now. Our parents are living with us more now, especially if, like, for instance, you've got really older parents, like 70s, 80s, 60s, somewhere old enough, and maybe their other significant other, your father or mother, died. It's a one-person income. I mean, Social Security over here has issues paying for just a one person anymore. The people who are thriving over here, and I don't want to sound racist because I'm not whatsoever, but the people that are surviving over here in the States are the Latinos and the different variations of, I honestly don't know if they're subcultures fully, but different sections of Asians. The reason why they're succeeding is because they know the beauty of family. Family is a positive thing. Family is a good thing. I mean, you've got some families that have 4, 5, 6 people, maybe even more living with them, and they're able to pay the income because, maybe they all got jobs. So, I mean, even if they all just dish in 100, I mean, there's probably rent, food, and some entertainment for everybody. When with you living out on your own right now in the way this economy has gotten, you almost can't survive on a one-person income. Like, you don't get paid enough between the housing bill. Like, we'll go for instance, you get $800 a month. No, that doesn't seem right. You get $1,000 a month. There you go. And so your rent's 500. Wow. Now you're already down to half of what you had. You got to buy some food. We'll throw in 150 there. That's $650. Out of 1,000 leaves you with 450. But let's wait. We don't know where you work, where you have to go with gas. So there's gas, insurance. So we'll dish in another. We'll be optimistic and say that only cost 100. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Not the insurance and the gas alone. But we'll say that brings you up to 700. And then, God forbid, if you're a single mother or father and you have a kid to raise, I mean, granted, we do get a little help out here with that. But I mean, most of your money just goes away before you have a chance to do anything with it. And if you start getting more bills, like electricity, water, if they're separate, you're left with a small amount of money. So I mean, I think that, I know it's hard and very hard in some places. Like I said, don't get me wrong on that. But I mean, when that starts to happen, it's nice to have family to lean back on too. And even when people make fun of you for it, it's like, well, yeah, you just wait until you're an adult and see what you can do now. Because the economy might even be worse then.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point. Like, I actually did some, rough math actually on living expenses in the greater Vancouver area where I live in. And apparently I need 2 full-time jobs to get, some decent savings. So for example, if I wanted to, actually, no, I take it back. There's basically no chance for me to buy a place for my own because it's just so unaffordable where I live. But to get some savings, basically I need 2 full-time jobs, and this is me living single bedroom and basically, trying to pay off all the expenses because I'm not sure about the minimum wage at your, in your state, but here in my in the province, BC province of Canada, our minimum wage hasn't been keeping up with inflation one bit. Like like I think right now the minimum wage is like 10.50 an hour or 10.75, anyway, around that. And and apparently someone did a study and said that the minimum wage needed to keep somewhat up to date with the inflation is 15. So you could see the huge difference. And so basically you need two jobs to kind of make up for that deficit, and then trying to have some savings left over for those rainy days, because unfortunately things do happen. People get real sick, they need to go to the hospital, they need all of that. I know that for people in the states, they might think that a lot of the medical bills are covered. Yes, there's a good amount, but for things like prescription drugs and all of that, we still have to pay out of our own pockets, and they're not cheap. They're pretty expensive, and if you get sick for a fairly long, I mean, let's put it this way: if say let's say a family of three, so mother, father, and child. Let's say the father got sick for 6 months. So being sick, that father first needs to buy the prescription needed to get better, and that 6 month that parent couldn't go to work. So now suddenly all that pressure is put on the mother. So I mean, it's kind of funny. Like my parents joke that here in Canada, you don't want to get sick because then you're in a lot of trouble. And really, even though it seems to be joking, they are serious, because even if these bills are say mostly covered, you can't work when you're really sick, and then that's income that you're not getting, and then as your debt rises, I mean, when we first came to Canada, we were renting our place. So that's money that we're paying out that we're never getting back. I mean, right now we finally got our own place, and the mortgage wasn't that bad. I mean, we bought our condo when the housing market was still reasonable, but even when it was reasonable, if we had bought a house, that would have put a lot more pressure on my parents, because that's a lot more monthly mortgage payment they have to do. and and really, I mean, think about it. If when the pricing was reasonable, they have to work hard. Imagine how hard is it now when the I'm not sure how the housing prices rose for Aurian's place, but here in Greater Vancouver, the prices has skyrocketed. Like people don't think it's gonna last, but until the so-called housing bubble pops, right now, even if you're renting like a one bedroom, I think one bedroom is like $1,000 a month. Ridiculous. This is like for one person. This is not talking about a family where you have other costs. I mean, how's the housing prices in your state, Aurian?
All right, so yeah, we'll get to the whole state thing for that in a moment because I actually did have an answer to that. So now first I want to go back to the like you said, you'd have to get two jobs just to survive, and it's like think about this. You're working two jobs, and this can go many different ways. Are you working two jobs congruently under one another? Are you going to work in the morning for one, night at the other? By the time you get home, all you have time for is to sleep? Are you working like certain days double shifts? I mean, you almost have no days off. And that's definitely one of the things that lead to depression, in my opinion, because too many jobs equals no free time. No free time means your stress is going to go through the roof. And because your stress is going through the roof, you're going to start getting depressed. I mean, if I didn't at least have 3-4 hours to myself a day, I would probably snap. So, I mean, this is definitely a problem, I think, all over in places that are actually more income based and, where we kind of can pay, is that we have to work to get here. But there's where the next problem comes in: minimum wage and inflation rising. Now, minimum wage here, I think, is only $8.75 or 25 cents. So, I mean, that is, I would say, almost awful compared to what amateurs got going on. But I believe Canadian money is like $2 more than here or something, or they're always $2 more expensive. So really, their 10.75 is really our 8.25 or whatever the amount was. But here comes the thing: inflation. And amateur is right. Inflation keeps rising, and as inflation rises, we have less and less amounts to do stuff. I completely forgot about medical bills. Pills are expensive in general, especially here in the States as well, though unlike there, like he said, even though the pills are expensive, they get free medical care. We don't get free medical care here in the States, and that also causes a lot of stress, problems, and causes us not to want to go to the doctors a lot. But we'll get back to the minimum wage part on this. So see, I've always, they're like, oh, we're going to raise minimum wage to help the consumer. We're going to raise minimum wage to get people the money that they need to survive and have a little free time for their hand. But no, that's not how it works. Because as soon as minimum wage gets raised, that means companies have to dish out money that they don't want to dish out in the first place most of the time. So they start increasing their prices. Now you're thinking, no, that can't be right. No. I'm not going to say where I worked, because a lot of these places I could get in trouble for when I did work. But one place in particular, they were like, I think our minimum wage was $7.25 at the time, and there was rumors that they were going to increase it to 10 something, and they're like, guys, if they raise the prices to 10 something, we're going to have to start charging $2 more for this, $3 more for this, and so on and so forth. How is that still saving us any money? Ooh, we're going to raise your income. We're going to give you $20 an hour. And so now gas is $14 a gallon. Really? How is this helping? No, we need to come up with a better way to do this in general, because if we don't, it's just going to keep leading to depression, to stress, to people being homeless. I mean, will we ever become like Indonesia or a country that might, pretty much like I said, not be able to eat? It's possible, but I mean, just minimum wage in general does not help. It's we don't need to raise stuff. We need to find ways to lower stuff. And there's got to be nice solutions around there. Now, I think that finally does bring me back to how much rent it costs here in the States around where I live, at least. And if I remember correctly, it's somewhere between $400 to $600 a month for rent. And we're looking at a one-bedroom apartment, I think, for maybe one person. 600 for two. Maybe 500. So 3, 4, 6, 7, 800. And like I said, pretend you're only getting 1,000 a month. I mean, we'll say $600 at the max. You're left with 400. And again, like I said, you're not talking about the groceries. And if you're not living in an apartment or a trailer that pays for some of the utilities, you've got lights and water and so much stuff. I mean, honestly, I can feel myself getting a little stressed just thinking about this for people. Money is a very stressful thing. Work is a very stressful thing. I mean, there's so much stuff that's stressful for us. And the problem is that we just deal with it. And I mean, sometimes it makes us stronger, sometimes it doesn't. But we all need to come up with better solutions. I mean, not just for ourselves. I mean, obviously, first we have to help ourselves. But once we get done with that, we need to all get together and try to find ways to change how we're all living, because it's not making us any better.
Yeah, money is probably one of the biggest factors for depression for like those people living on their own or have their own family. And I think this alone is already pretty overwhelming, so it's only made worse if people decide to, do jobs they hate. Like I've hated one of my fast food restaurant jobs because how management does stuff, and I was getting minimum wage, and I was doing part-time because I was going to college at the time, and I was exhausted. Like, if I went to work, the moment I came back, like, at, even though it's walking distance from my home, when I get back, the first thing I need is at least a half-hour nap. Like, unless I get that nap, I can't do anything. I was that exhausted. Now, now you can imagine this. Imagine if I was doing this work full time. I was worried about if I can pay my bills or not. I hate my work. I get home, couldn't do anything, I need rest, and then I feel, anxiety from not accomplishing anything after work because, maybe I'm thinking about going to school but I can't do anything. I mean, these just overwhelm you. So if you have money problems, that's already a big headache. You don't need a job that you hate to only add to your problems. And and that sort of brings me back to even what I was talking about earlier, where I wasn't meeting any expectations. We ourselves are our biggest critics because if something's not going wrong, we are gonna call ourselves names, insult ourselves. I mean, other people might do it too, but you only see other people for so long. When when I was at the lowest point, I was always telling myself, "You're a failure. Why do you suck? Why couldn't you get better grades? Why couldn't you get a better job? Why are you so useless?" I was continuously saying those things to myself. It wasn't making me any better, but given the situation, I felt like that's the only thing I have control over. The only thing I had control over was insulting myself because I can't fight back. And you know, when you're at the lowest point, when you have all of these issues, you don't want more problems piling up. So if you're having money problems, don't keep working at a job you hate. I know you're gonna say, but I need to feed my fam. I mean, if you hate your work, you're gonna hate your life. Your your attitude is gonna affect those people around you, and chances are you're not gonna be improving your life because you're gonna be too tired. You're gonna be too pessimistic. You just don't want to do anything except finding excuses, keep thinking about what you did wrong, and never bother looking to her. So if you're in a situation where yes, you have a family to feed, you have obligations, but you gotta find a way out of the vicious cycle, or else if you're stuck into it, you suffer, your whole family suffers, and nobody wins. So, so sometimes just look at where you're at now and ask yourself, is this where you want to be? Because I couldn't imagine, like at that fast food restaurant, if I had to work that full time to support myself and having no education at all. I I can't imagine that life. I mean, I'll be hating myself every day, always trying to find excuses, always insulting myself, just never getting better. And when I never get better, I won't look towards the future. And basically, I'll be trapped there until, I mean, I would say until I retire, but right now, looking at the financial situation here in Canada, most people are working longer, like past the retiring age, because with what they're getting for their pension, it couldn't even support them. So they have to keep working. And here's me with a minimum wage job. I mean, imagine if I get to, sure, I'll get some savings, but if I get sick, if something happens, that's all gone. So when do I retire? Do I retire when I die? That shouldn't be the case. So I'm not sure about Aurian, but have you ever, insulted yourself and then basically, been so overwhelmed with all of these emotions that you don't even think about the future?
Well, I'm going to actually give a personal story here in a bit, and it's kind of a bad one, but it's not at the same time. First, I want to start with, like you stated again, don't state a job you don't like, especially if you have money issues. And it's like I said in one of the podcasts about my teacher, business teacher, who told me, if you don't like what you do, quit. Now, that doesn't again mean just up and quit, especially if you have other obligations. And that's what Amateur was talking about. Look for another job while you do. Find something else you think you'll like. And when you find it, then quit the other job. Never before then. And then he's right, too, that we are our own worst enemies, our own worst critics. And I mean, this is true on everything. You've got the fact that you've got girls who are like, oh, I'm not pretty, or I'm too fat. And, honestly, my definition of fat is way different from another person's. I'm not going to give what my definition of fat is, because that could be mean to someone else. But, I mean, there are girls who are, like, not bad looking at all, and they're like, oh, I'm so ugly and fat, I wish I could just live. And it's like, well, of course they're going to say that. They're their own worst enemies. You're always going to belittle yourself. You're always going to be against yourself. I mean, I critique myself all the time when I do my show. A lot of times it's like, boy, I didn't make any jokes that episode, or boy, I didn't talk much, or boy, that episode just seemed so boring. And I always counter myself. But you know what? I quit doing that a long time ago. It's like, the show is what it is. Let it go. And so this comes back to the personal thing, as he was saying, if I ever felt so down that I belittled myself, and I probably have, I don't fully remember, and I think that's because at that point in time it was so bad that I blacked it out or blocked it out. But what I can say is that one job that I was talking about, the one where, oh, well, if they increase minimum wage, we're going to have to 12, 13, 14 bucks for this or that. That job got so bad, and I wouldn't quit. And I should have. It got to the point where when I came home from work, that I had to drink. And I mean alcohol. Nothing too bad. Not enough to get me flat out drunk while I'm, bouncing all around or drink myself to sleep. I would get home and I would drink 4% to 7% alcoholic drink. And then I'd do it before bedtime, too, just to sleep at night, because I knew that when I woke up in the morning, yay, I get to go back to the place that I despise the most. And it got to the end where it got so bad at that job, like I said, that was pretty much where they were like, well, why don't you just quit? Because all you do is come home and you complain about it every day. I was making them depressed, and we stated that a little bit in the first episode. There was a point where I don't want to say I wanted to commit suicide, but boy, did I think about it here and there. But I never went through of it because I don't know. I really don't know why I didn't. Nothing was going right at that time. But I guess maybe I was that much strong-willed not to want to do it, or the fact that I don't like to quit. I mean, there's so many reasons why as to not that I did it. But the drinking, I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't anything, like I become a raging alcoholic, and I barely drink anymore. I barely drank in the beginning. It was only during that time that I worked there. So definitely, if you don't like your job, if it's causing you that much stress and depression, you need to find a better job, or try to find a job. And I know in some places you're like, but I can't find any work. This is the only other place I have. Well, at least you do have it, and you should feel glad that you have it to help pay the bills and whatnot for the time being. But now that you got this job and you're surviving from it, that's when you can go and look for the other job freely, and it's not going to bother you as much, other than having to deal with having to go back there every single day. And if you can find a good way to get around it, then that's awesome. For me, it was gaming. Besides the one job, which was the final nail, like I said, alcohol for that one. But find something to make you not feel as bad, that's healthy, until you can get yourself a better job. Because before, you're looking for any job because you're needing to survive. And that, I understand. Whatever you can get. But once you got that job, if you don't like it, that gives you a little bit more freedom to search without having to worry about what bills do I have to pay next month, or am I going to get kicked out of my house? So, I mean, Amateur really brought up good points with that, and I think it's nice to know that even if your job is the worst that it is, if you can find yourself a healthy, creative outlet, you can also then search for more of your dream job or try to work yourself to that point to have a job that you can stand, like, or even enjoy.
And hitting this point, I want to bring up, there are people who said there are these safe paths in life, like go to school, get a degree, and then get a job. Unfortunately, that's not true anymore. Like I know people want some certainty in their life, so they want some decent paying job, waiting at the end of their school, and that's totally understandable. I was in that position once, but really, what people should aim for is trying to do something they love, because even if say that the pay isn't that great, like they're scraping by, at least they love the job and they can move forward. And and this also brings up another thing I've been like thinking about, because I've been in depression somewhat recently. It's like people don't want to experience these things. They don't want to experience anxiety. They don't want to experience depression. They would do anything in their power to get away from those. But I don't think anxiety is a bad thing in certain aspects. I can't say it for all aspects, because the thing about anxiety is when you experience anxiety, it means that something's not quite working in life. And people tend to, I mean, a lot of people know the saying, what isn't broken, don't fix it. And that's the thing. If everything's going pretty well, going as planned, are you gonna change anything? Chances are you won't, right? I mean, let's say you did graduate from school and you found a decent paying job and you can support a decent lifestyle. Are you gonna change it? Of course not, because everything's going according to plan. But the thing about life is you'll eventually hit things, hit challenges, hit obstacles, meet someone who's suddenly like your worst enemy, and you will have to deal with those issues. And it's during those issues where you start to grow, you start to mature, you start to learn more about yourself. I mean, everybody could celebrate, good times. Everybody could party. Everybody could, be really happy when everything's going well. I got a promotion, I got a raise, all of that. It doesn't take any effort. But what truly separates people is how they deal with challenges, how they deal with anxiety and depression. Because there are people who get into depression and they never get out of it because they gave up. But there are some people who experience depression, they fought it, they won, and then now they're in a better place because during the fight, they discover who they are, what they truly want to do, what skills that they had that they never knew existed had they never been depressed. So, pain and suffering is not always a bad thing as long as you don't let it overwhelm you. You just have to be optimistic and just keep fighting it, because there is light in the end of the tunnel. No matter how bleak it was, you just have to keep moving forward, because without pain, you won't grow. Without growth, you won't reach a height, you won't fully unlock the potential you have within you. And sadly, a lot of people wanted to take the safe path, which, there is no safe path. You might be safe, in quotation marks, for the time being, but maybe somewhere further down the road you're gonna experience something horrific, and then suddenly your life is changed forever, and now you still have to deal with it. And you know, for me, yes, I have experienced depression twice in my life, and and during the first time, I even considered committing suicide. I mean, I failed, luckily, or else I wouldn't be here. But see, each time they teach me something. The first time probably teach me to stop running away from my problems. That's why the second time I never even considered suicide. The second time I realized that I made some stupid decisions along the way. I wasn't true to myself, and really I should change what my focus is and just go for what I want, what my heart tells me to do, as opposed to what my parents expect me to do, as opposed to what society, expects. An Asian. I mean, we have stereotypes. We say Asians are good at math, Asians are good at this, at that. I don't want to be the stereotypical Asian. I want to be myself, the unique me, and basically I want to unlock the potential inside me and just be myself, have fun with life, and just enjoy it the way I want it. And if I have to experience pain, I'll take it head on, because if I let it overwhelm me, I'll continue to suffer pain. But if I overwhelm it, I mean, if I defeat it, I'll feel a sense of success that will push me closer towards my dream. So how about you, Aurian? I mean, what have your past experience had like what effects they had on your growth?
All right. Well, first, just because you brought it up, and I at least want to have a little humor in here since we've been talking really serious. And like I said, at one point I felt really stressed when we were talking about it. You said that there's a plan, and I think someone who said that perfectly, as bad and as weird as it may sound, was the Joker from the Dark Knight trilogy, the recent one. That it's all part of the plan. He was never angry pretty much throughout that whole movie, just about, because he all thought it was part of the plan. And I mean, as insane as somebody like that can be, he at least knew what he wanted to do, and he tried to do it. But that brings back to most people now, and you know, he, Amateur's right. Sometimes we don't want to take the easy path, or that we want to take the easy path. That we're we pretty much don't want to deal with it, and not wanting to deal with it is fine. But Amateur's again right on the fact that it pretty much tells you what's wrong. A lot of times we just want to grab it and pull it deep down and just forget about it. But it's those type of moments that if something is wrong, that's sometimes what the stress can lead to. And if you're feeling stressed, you do need to try to fix it. Because if you don't, it's only going to continue to get worse. And as it continues to get worse, you're going to start going into depression. So you should always finish the fight. Whatever you start, you should finish. I mean, like I said, I mean that's not fully true in the sense of a job per se that you dislike. I mean, you should finish it out until you can find that better job. But you're still finishing the fight by doing that. And they do also say that whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And I mean, obviously, physically that's not always true. Oh, well, I just lost a leg. I'm not as strong now as I was leg-wise, but I mean, each traumatic event does make you stronger if you can get through it, hopefully, possibly. And for me, that's how I've always felt that it has been, is that through every traumatic event that I've had to deal with, through every physical trauma, I mean, not to myself, which still leads more to mental, but every physical, mental trauma, just kind of, sorry, I got distracted for a second. Each physical and emotional trauma that we end up going through makes us a stronger person. And I am also the person that I am today because of this, is that I've dealt with enough decades worth of stress and depression and trying to find myself, that when I finally had found myself, I'm in a good place now. And it's only because of everything that happened, because it made me who I am. I've said it once, I've said it a few times. I would never, ever give up anything that happened in my life, because each event led to a future event which put me where I am now. I change one of those, I'm not who I am. And that's pretty much how I deal with this. How it's made me stronger is just the fact that stress, depression, it's not a good thing long term. Maybe not even a good thing short term, but it's good enough to the fact of it helped me. And that, I mean, I feel that depression always isn't a bad thing, that stress isn't always a bad thing. We've just got to know how to deal with it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, coping with stress and all of those problems is always a challenge. And I mean, just using your example, you said you used to drink. I mean, drinking only, I guess, temporarily solves the issue. But I know some people get like serious drinking issues. And that's the thing, like trying to escape it either through drinking or eating, like all of those stuff. I mean, like some people get overweight not because they can't control their eating. They just tend to what do you call it? They just tend to try to use it to help them like when they compensate for something. Like they feel that if they eat a lot, they feel comfortable, so it feels like they can make it go away, and that's totally understandable. And there are certain jobs that does make it harder. Like I mean, currently in chat, I people won't see this, but currently in chat, there's someone who has problems due to a job, and one of the members who isn't with us today, Rogue, like he has the PTSD because of one of his work. I'm not sure if he mentioned before, but I hope he forgive me for mentioning. But apparently he was doing some delivery job, and then there were two guys who were armed and trying to jump him, and while he survived, that experience stayed with him. And you could just imagine, living with that for rest of your life because that thing happened and it's never going away. And and that's part of life. Like you never know what's gonna happen. Like he probably didn't expect that delivery to go wrong, and honestly, nobody deserves that. But but we also have to remember that with our future uncertain, we also decide on our own fate. Like like earlier in this podcast, if you don't like your job, you can change it. There are opportunities out there. Like in the past, you might be stuck in one place, and then maybe that's it. Then maybe you're stuck with one job. But right now, with internet, your opportunities are endless. Maybe you could even find work abroad. It's just a matter of how how much you want to change your life. And I mean, it's true. They said how much work you put into something, you'll get how much back. That's the same. I mean, just take YouTube. I mean, I do YouTube. I I have to put in a lot of work to make my content and then make it grow through networking, PR, whatever you call it. And it's you know if you want to make your dream come true, you have to work hard. And yes, there will be voices out there saying, "Don't do it, you will fail." Like like maybe your closest friends say, "Don't quit your job." why you're taking this other job that pays less. Maybe the other job you like it more, and you believe that you can work hard enough to move up, and eventually you'll not only earn more, but you'll enjoy your work more. But all of these require you willing to go outside your comfort zone, because I mean, if you stay within your comfort zone, you never really grow, because you never experience things that will truly change your life, because you're always sticking with the same people, and maybe those people are the ones who tell you you can't do it. And I can't emphasize enough that if you have those kind of friends who say you can't do it, I mean, don't be like, screw them, I'm not gonna talk to them anymore. But do trying to find people who have the can-do attitude. People who are like, I'm pursuing my dreams. I know it's hard, but I know I can do it if I keep going. You want to be around those people, because just as negativity can spread, positivity can spread as well. And the more positive people you have around you, the more positive you'll be, and the more success you'll find, because you'll have the right mindset. And then it's only a bit more work to find out how to do something properly. The rest is just persevering, pushing forward, working hard towards that future you want. What do you think, Aurian?
Uh, so yeah, with the PTSD, I mean, just in general, I mean that right there, and I'm pretty sure Rogue did mention it, but when a job can give you PTSD, no matter what the reason, it's not a good job. I mean, I think if I would have stayed at the job that I was at for much longer, I mean, with how I was starting the little binge drinking type thing, like 1, 2 a day, I'm pretty sure I might have got to that point too, but I think mine might have been with people at that point, just because of how the job handled. And I don't know, there's not really much I can say on this. I mean, other than the fact that I can kind of jump on point to what Amateur said and state to the fact that we need to get ourselves to a good point. And I know we mention this a lot, but it's true. We have to guide ourselves to what we want in life. We can't just sit there and hope that it comes to us. Hope that if we, think it might happen, it might. We've actually got to take steps to do it. Like if you have a dream to become a NASCAR driver, well, you can't just sit there and be like, well, if I do these small little races, maybe they'll do something. I mean, you got to work hard to get noticed. But sticking on a job that isn't going to treat you well, if even one aspect of your life is out of order, then that causes some form of stress or some form of depression. And I think with a lot of us, it is jobs that causes the stress and the depression. For some, it's definitely school. For Amateur, it's probably definitely both right now. But he is working towards a goal. He's working towards a future. And if he continues to work at it, I know that he'll succeed. I mean, he streams multiple times a day. He does videos on DWAAN by himself in his normal videos. He does some amazing work too in his videos. I mean, he tries. And the more he tries, the better he gets. And I'm not going to say that he wasn't bad. He was great. I mean, he's good to begin with. He of course, being his own worst enemy, is kind of like, oh, I don't think I'm that good, or I'm not that good of a gamer. Well, nobody's that good of a gamer when they first start off. And that's kind of like the same thing in life. When you start off something new in life, you're not that good at it. You work towards getting better at it. And that's exactly what Amateur does. Like, most of the games that he's playing, he's getting really good at, or at least he's sufficing enough to pass it. And it's because he continues to try. And I think if we put that much time and effort into our our normal life, we can accomplish stuff. And same thing with school and work for him. You know, he's sitting there trying to find what he wants to do. He's going to college, so he's definitely trying. He's got an idea of what he wants to do, and he's working towards it. And although it stresses him out, I would imagine at the same time it's not the worst stress in the world. I mean, yeah, it's not the best, obviously, but I mean it's at the end of the day, it's like that was stressful, but you know what? I'm one step closer to my dream. And because one step closer to my dream, because I am one step closer to my dream, that means I've just got to deal with this stress a little bit longer. I mean, for you, amateur, I want to say that I fully think that even though the stress isn't good on you, it's not good on anybody. I think at least the stress is telling you that, hey, you're working yourself hard, you're trying hard, and yeah, I'm attacking you at all fronts, but you're dealing with it. You're managing, and I mean, I for one am just proud of you as a human being for being able to do something like this show and be able to continuously evolve yourself and try to better yourself. I mean, yeah, you're not where you are. Am I where I fully am right now too? No. I mean, I'm still not where I want to be fully. I'm at a good place, but I'm not where I want to be yet. So, I mean, I think sometimes the stress is good. Even if we don't want to deal with it, we don't want to acknowledge it, and just don't want it. We want it to go away. But I think sometimes the stress, maybe not the depression, but the stress is at least necessary evil for a greater good.
You know, it's kind of funny. Like right now, I'm stressing over school because I'm not doing too well, and I don't have the best foundation. But when I'm streaming, like right now, I don't feel any stress. I just enjoy it. Like it feels almost second nature, even though I do need more time to, improve on my commentary or talk on the talk shows. But yeah, like doing this and doing YouTube, I don't feel stressed. I mean, yes, I do get stressed somewhat when there's like a technical issues that I'm trying to solve, but otherwise I don't feel stressed because I enjoy it. And that's the thing about doing something you love, doing something you enjoy, because like there's a saying. They say that if you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work, and that's exactly what I feel. I mean, right now I have part-time work. I go to school even though right now it's finals. I mean, when I'm at school or when I'm at the part-time job, I wish I was doing YouTube or streaming because it's something I have fun with. Like if I'm aiming I'm aiming to make this my full-time work, which would be awesome because first I could support myself, and then secondly, I'm doing what I love. So it never feels like work, honestly. And and for most people, I mean, can you imagine a feeling where you're getting up and looking forward to work? That seems incredible, and I think for most people, that's not something they have because they might not enjoy it, they might not have the best coworkers, job itself might be stressful. There's a lot of factors, and if you could make one aspect of your life, like for adults, most of the time it's going to be spent working. If you could make a major part of your life something you love, then no matter, like, even if, say, on your way home, on your days off, you encounter something that just ruins your mood, you'll know that the next day you get up, you'll be better because that's only a temporary thing. Because you have found something that has truly improved your life, made you feel fulfilled, made you feel successful, and also makes you feel, looking forward to, because suddenly you don't have something you hate. I mean, for school, for work so far, I never look forward. Like if I get up, I'm like, oh great, another day of work or another day of school. But but if on my day off I have nothing else and I get up, I'm like, okay, time to make some videos. Like I wouldn't try to find excuse. Like if I'm if I really don't want to go to work, I might try to find sick. But really, I'm making excuses because I don't want to go. But if I make videos, I probably wouldn't make that excuse. And that's the thing about excuses. When you do something you love, do you really need excuse? And and that's the thing. I mean, pursuing your dreams is never easy, and dreams can change. I will admit that. And that's why you got to see more of the world, because maybe the more you see, the earlier you see your dreams, and then the earlier you start pursuing it, because dreams don't happen. Dream isn't like a package that will show up on your door and like say, "Here, you got your dream." No, dream is something you have to go after, and and the thing is, sometimes you will have to hit dead ends before you find your dream. I mean, I'll just make an analogy. I mean, I played Diablo 2, and right now the map I have, there's lots of dead ends. Like I I always joke when I play, when I do the commentary, that I'll probably hit all the dead ends before I find the right way. And and I find that's what's happening in my life. I'm hitting a lot of dead ends. And I know dead ends are discouraging because you feel like you're making no success. And and here I'll just share more about myself, like the dead ends I encountered. So like I said, I was hoping, go to university, complete it in 4 years, and then graduate, get a job. Voila, perfect. Everything according to plan. So what didn't go according to plan? First, my grades weren't that great starting second year, and then the program I was in, people normally take 5 years, 6 years. I would probably take longer, extra year or two. And then of course it doesn't help that, you know due to my low grades, I can't do something called co-op, which is like work experience. So basically, I'll have no experience when I graduate. I also went to college, so I took a break from university. I went to college. I got the diploma, and nobody in my class could find a job because of the basically the diploma is for like the oil sector, and sadly the oil prices dropped, so they were busy laying off people, so they don't want newbies coming to work. So now I'm back to university and I'm struggling to pass. I have failed some courses along the way. So yeah, these are all my dead ends. And and yes, I I was depressed. I was disappointed about how things go. But, you know, look at it this way. Once you hit all the dead ends, there's only one way, and that way is to your dreams. So the more dead ends you hit, the fewer dead ends you have left before you truly hit the path you want to go. And you know, most people aren't gonna fulfill their dreams. That's why if you're one of the few who decide to, pursue your dreams and make it come true, you're you're one of the few people who accomplish that. So that is something worth going for. Because if your dream is easy, then everybody will reach it. What exactly is a dream? A dream is something that people tend to, see as very difficult or impossible. Some people have impossible dreams. You tell them it's impossible, they're like, watch me. And guess what? Maybe a few years later, they prove it. I mean, that's what happens in the Olympics. new world records are set, right? People are like, oh, nobody could swim faster than this or run faster than this. Someone comes in and proves them wrong. Those are dreams. Going to, buy groceries isn't a dream because everybody could do it. But doing something incredible is. And most people aren't gonna, see their dreams come true. So if you do have a dream and you pursue it and you make it come true, guess what? You're above so many people. You deserve a pat on the back because you have done something incredible. And the thing is, in our lives, we should, should pursue our dreams. Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we do something we love? Why shouldn't we try to, accomplish something other people think is hard or impossible? How about you, Aurian? I mean, you partly got your dream come true, but how about those people around you? You haven't really shared much. It's mostly you. I know it's kind of personal, but are there like people near you, friends or all of that, who have, they're who are also trying to make their dream come true?
So, yeah, that gets to an even interesting more relation to me and people. And we'll get back to that. I want to, of course, start with, like usual, a few things that you said. And one of the major ones is that you said that, the work stresses you out, the school stresses you out, but then you do the gaming and it releases your stress. You don't feel it. And maybe that's just what we all need in life is maybe that's a good way to deal with stress or depression. Is just to do something that you love. Even if it doesn't fully get rid of it, it can help release some of the stress. Like coin collecting, stamps, gaming, watching sports with games, or watching sports with games, watching sports with friends. Boy, we see how much I care about friends, apparently. Activities with friends. Just going out and hanging out with them. If it can help release some of your stress, then maybe that's something you want to try to do more of. Again, up to a certain healthy perspective. Now, Amateur also mentioned Diablo 2. Well, I played Diablo 3 myself, and I love the way he looks at the analogy about the dead ends getting closer to the not so many dead ends. I also see this another way too, and both ways would work either way. And I always hit all the dead ends in all my games, not just Diablo all the time. But I'm more of an RPG fan, so I'm always gaining experience. And that's the thing in an RPG. Even if you take a wrong end, you're better off than you were at the start of the dead end because you've gained experience, you've grown. Now that pretty much can be exactly as Amateur put it. You've grown in life to the point where you don't have that many more dead ends to go. Now you're going to know what you are going to do. Now, when it comes to friends or family aspects, see, here within lies the problem. I've mentioned it once that I really only have one good friend, and that anymore, and that's my co-host. And I really want the world for them. I want them to, not have any problems, to succeed in life and accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. But I really don't have that many people in my life. That I can, hope for the best. But I've more or less got Amateur now. Me and Amateurs, at least I would hope, is really good friends at this point. I at least consider him a good friend, and I always want what's best for him. There's a few people on VidMe that I'm really more closer to. Rogue is another one. I really want the world for Rogue, especially with all he's been through. He needs a break in his life. Warpath Gaming, amazing guy, like I've always said, like he gets into everybody's business in the best way. He wants to help people out, and I'm glad he's there because a lot of people do need guidance. And not only with him, the fact that he used to be a teacher, but the fact that he's there for anybody that needs help. Whether it be how do I get more views, how do I get more subs, how do I get more anything, he's there for them. And that is an amazing thing to do. I mean, not that many people can sit there and say at the end of the day that I just helped 22 people and now they're all better off than they were before. I mean, I can't say that they're all better off than they were before, but I would like to think that they are. And I mean, I have a few other online friends that I've really grown attached to, at least up to certain extents. And for me, it's more the online community that I'm more closer to than I am real life. But that's also because I have to focus on what I have to do. As Amateur put, I partially got my dream, but I'm still working on that every day too. And so, I mean, I've kind of got to focus on myself. But I've never been the kind of person to not want to focus on other people. But because of that, like I said, also too, my only one real friend is really my co-host physically. That is, because they can actually come here in person. So I mean, I can't really talk too much of experiences about other people because I really don't have that much connections physically. Now, like I said, Amateur, Rogue, Warpath, Lady Chloe, Wazzy, who's another good, person that we know. I mean, I at least want the best for everybody that I've started talking to. So, I mean, I'm happy that I do know these people, even if I don't really know too much about them. And like we have stated, the internet is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing either. So, I mean, this is why I'm always open to chat, or if you text me on, or comment to me, that I'm going to answer back because, at least there's some connection. The reason why I game, and I think I've told Amateur this, I think I might have mentioned it a little bit on the show, is when I started my show for the gaming, my major thing was that I love sharing gaming experiences. I mean, when we were kids, what was one of the best things about gaming? You could get your friends to come over and y'all could play like a fighting game like Super Smash Brothers or whatever was co-op back then. Halo, I think. But, it was always fun having friends coming over and you'd watch them. They'd watch you. And that's really why I started the show more than anything. I mean, it was my dream and it is something I want to do for reasons that I've explained in past podcasts. But just the fact that even if one person watches, I've succeeded. Because all I want to do is share my experience of games, whether that be me glitching, doing something weird, just a multitude of things. So, I mean, every time, and I don't mean to plug my show at all, because I really don't want to do that here too much, but my show's just as much a part of me now as my gaming is. And for me, it's if I can record and show somebody something new, show somebody an experience, share that experience with them. Whether they hated it, they liked it. I mean, I try to be funny on it, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is I just want a community, in a sense. And when somebody does watch it and, if I can get them to laugh once, it's a small victory. So, I mean, at the end of the day, woohoo, I was able to get end of the day in there. At the end of the day, the importance for me is, what I'm going to do with my show, but also anybody who watches it. And I mean, I'm just weird that way, I guess.
And Aurian, I do consider you best friend. Don't worry, it's great meeting you. That's why we're doing this podcast together. And we are reaching the end of this podcast, but before we go, I want to bring out an interesting point. Like Aurian said, he doesn't have many good friends, and the thing is, I feel for a lot of people, they'll grow more if they walk alone. I I know it seems daunting, and loners are sometimes looked down upon, but when you're alone, you have to do everything yourself, so you are growing faster. And since he's chasing after his dreams, if he didn't go into gaming, if he didn't, make videos, make shows, we would have never met. So That's the other reason why you want to chase after your dreams. Because as you start getting closer to your dreams, you'll find other like minded people who are doing the same. You'll make new friends, and these are gonna be good friends. These aren't gonna be fair weather friends who are gonna be gone when you need them the most. These are gonna be friends who are working towards the same goal, and you'll find that you have a lot of similarities, and that when you chat with them, you feel like you've known them forever. I mean, I mean, I've only started like chatting directly with Aurian since like the start of the podcast, but before we chat in Discourse, it's typing, but even then it feels like we sort of click, like we've been friends for a while, so when we type, just an ordinary conversation between friends. And so I just want to end this off on a fairly high note. So, do you have anything to say to conclude this podcast, Aurian?
Yes, and I'll try to stay high tone too for the end. But I do agree that sometimes it is good to walk alone, but sometimes it's also nice to have support of others. And you've got to pretty much learn which one you need to do at which point. But yes, you're very much right. That's another reason why to do what I do with the gaming is because I have met people like you, of course, amateur, people like a lot of you that are listening. You watch my stuff, you're watching this. I mean, we're all getting closer. If you made it this far into, I mean, it's one of our shorter podcasts, but I mean, if you made it to the end of this, I mean, you know, at least you feel closer, or maybe you feel closer to other people just because you look down at the bar and you see that 300 people have watched this or something, and you're like, wow, I'm not the only one. And maybe somebody leaves a comment, then you leave a comment, then we leave a comment, then you reply to somebody's comment or ours. Bam, you've started a chat. I mean, whether it's about anything in the podcast or just something for fun, you've started a community of communication, and togetherness can be just as good as being a loner. And I mean, me and amateur, we've been loners like most of our life. But I will not deny a friendship. I will not, push somebody away. I will do things my own way from time to time, but that's me. And I think just the fact that watching somebody's video, sharing the experience like with my channel, or just listening to this, even if you're too afraid to speak out, you know, the fact that you click on this and you see that there's, like I said, 300 views. I mean, I think our highest is like 170 or something for our first podcast. And we haven't posted the third one to this date. But just the fact that you see that there's 170 views, we'll say, it's like, wow, I'm not as alone as I thought I was. And that's where I think the internet really does succeed too, is showing how much that we can get together, how much we can be nice to one another. So in conclusion, I think every time that something is done and posted, and you post it with all your heart, or you do something in real life with all your spirit, you're always running into those people who are like-minded like yourself. And if you're watching this, then that means hopefully we're all like-minded, or at least we have different views, but we're still similar in some ways. So hopefully by the end of this, you can go out and hang with your friends tomorrow night and just sit there and be like, you know what? I don't have the best of life. Things are going wrong, but you know what? I get to hang out with my friends and they're making me feel good now. So maybe I'll forget about what's stressing me for a few hours, and then I'll eventually deal with it. So go out, enjoy time with your friends, enjoy time with us, enjoy times watching people game, watching movies with other people, watching TV shows, watching sports games. Just do stuff that you like, and hopefully others will follow in your place.
Thank you, Aurian. And I just want to finish off also saying, you know we're not professionals, but we are ordinary people who have came this far in life. So we're just sharing our perspectives, our advice about life, and basically we just want to start conversation. If you leave a comment, we really appreciate it because you know a lot of the times when we're at the lowest point, we feel alone. We feel like the whole world is against us. And what we're trying to accomplish here is saying that that's not true. There are people, I mean, like people in our podcast, we will have more. We're just trying to schedule them. But people in our group, we have different lives. We have so many different experiences. And really, like, we don't have the right answers, but maybe we could give you insight of what we did, what worked, what didn't work, so that maybe it could help you decide what you want to do with your life and how would you want to, approach a certain issue. And for those who have reached this far, thank you so much. We really appreciate. Like, this isn't a short podcast; it's approaching an hour and a half. But if you came this far, thank you so much. And in the description, there'll be links for, currently our three podcast members. As we have, the other members come in, I'll link their channels as well so that you could check them out. These are all great people, and we lead very different lives. That's what we're trying to give. We're trying to give different perspectives so that even though we have different upbringing, different experiences, we come together, chat about things. We might not always share the same, but we are here, you know, discuss these kind of issues because unfortunately, anxiety and negativity is something that a lot of people have in common because at one point of their lives, they're gonna experience these challenges, and a lot of people feel they can't deal with it. And what we're trying to do here is trying to give a chilled atmosphere. We're good listeners, so message us, comment, or or even join the Twitch chat if you want, and then we'll try our best to at the very least we'll listen to you, and if you want some feedback or how we will approach it, we will happily give it to you. There's no professional advice, but at least you'll get, these kind of what do you call it, wisdom from, some members of our group who have been there, who who have dealt with it and came out stronger. So thank you once again for everyone who has, you know, watched our videos or even come to the stream. We really appreciate it. And we just hope for more interaction. So thank you everyone once again, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.